So we're going to talk about advertising your business now, and I'm going to talk about traditional print advertising. Now, I think a lot of you will have probably be thinking, print advertising is dead. It is not dead, right? It's absolutely not. It's the biggest myth in the industry that advertising doesn't work. And print advertising in particularly is extremely effective if you do it right. It's bad adverts that don't work. Not advertising in general, it's bad adverts that don't work. So where should you advertise? Well, think about who is your target bride. Again, we did this way back at one of the earliest lessons, probably the first lesson we did. We talked about advertising your target bride. And you've got to make sure that where you advertise matches that. And we're looking at local, regional or national. Again, think about where do you work? What magazine are the brides likely to be buying? Right, your potential grooms and brides might be buying. And you also need to budget for a repeat series of issues. There's no point in just chucking one ad in there and see what happens. That's not going to work, right? You need to get your advertising right in the first place. You may have to tweak it along the way, but you have to make sure that when you get that first advert in, it's going to work, right? So I'm going to tell you how you need to structure your advert. But first, why am I talking about print advertising? Obviously, you can advertise on Facebook and Instagram, etc. But the beauty about print advertising, in particular if you advertise in a specific industry magazine, obviously I'm talking about wedding magazines here, they've already done the targeting for you. So the people that pick up these magazines and read them are your target market, right? Whereas on Facebook and Instagram, you've got to do the target and you've got to try and work out what parameters they put into these ads to make sure that the people that see these ads are your target market. Whereas in print, that's already done for you. Readers are extremely engaged with wedding magazines. Much more engaged than the internet. They'll sit and they'll flick through them and they really enjoy sitting there. With the internet, it's just scroll, click, click, scroll, you know. Occasionally they'll stop and look at something. But in social media, people work at 100 miles an hour, where magazines are regarded as a relaxing and engaging thing to interact with. The people that read them as well are already in a buying mode. Right? They're picking up this magazine because they're looking for information that they can use about their wedding planning. The magazines are trusted sources. Right? They literally trust these magazines already. Right? It's not just been chucked out there by any fly-by-night operator sticking an advert on Facebook. It's a trusted source. Now in advertising, we use the concept of AIDA. And you should use this in everything you do on advertising, whether it's in print or online, or even in your social media posts. And what does AIDA stand for? It's an acronym that marketeers use. And the A stands for grabbing attention. A is for attention. So you see in my advert here, I've grabbed attention by saying, weddings with wow. And I had the wow highlighted. Weddings with wow. So what do you mean, weddings with wow? So next I create some interest. And the interest is created by listing the industry awards that I had. So if the weddings with wow, oh, why? Oh, this guy's won a few awards. Then I need to generate desire. That's what the D is. And the desire comes from the photographs. I want my target client to imagine himself in these photographs. So I'm creating a desire for my service by putting these beautiful photographs up there. And lastly, I have a call to action. And in this case, it's a time-limited call to action. I'm saying contact us now about this photo shoot we can do for you and your bridal party. Now we tried a few things here. And the most effective one I've had generally, and I think this is not this particular advert, but the most effective one we did was where we offered a pre-wedding photo shoot with all wedding bookings, right? And we would say it was a limited deal for readers of this magazine. It wasn't a limited deal, but it was a way for us to find out where they got our information from. Where did you see our information? And they would tell us, oh, I saw it in the Scottish Wedding Directory, and apparently I got a free pre-wedding shoot if I book with you as well. And we would put a value on that, it'd be worth £300, that kind of thing. So that's the concept of advertising, and it's AIDA. It's the simplest little concept, but once you get it, you'll advertise differently all the time going forward, because you've got to look at each individual advert and say, am I grabbing their attention? Am I creating interest? Am I generating desire? And am I having a call to action? You do that and your adverts will start to work. So there we are. Weddings with Thou. Generating desire, getting interest with the awards that we won, and then the call to action at the bottom. Ask us about our special offer we have. Size matters in adverts. You want to hit the right clients, remember. I was aiming for higher end weddings, and I hope you do too. And to do that, you need to get full page adverts. Not a little quarter of a page, full page. Because that's the adverts that your target bride is going to look at. So you're going to size your advert to suit that. Big budget brides look at the big adverts first, because that's the photographers they think they'll be using. And if you're a quarter page, you're going to be flicked past. Small budget brides look at the smaller ads first, because it's human nature and psychology. That's the adverts that they believe they can afford. Now, they are expensive. These adverts are full page. It's not a cheap advert, but it will attract expensive brides and expensive grooms. But here's the thing about magazine advertising, and not many people realise this. You can negotiate on the rates. The published rate card is never ever stuck to. Ask them for the best deal and then bid under that. They're desperate for advertisers in this modern age. These magazines spend most of their time just trying to get advertisers in the actual ads in the magazines themselves. So they're desperate for advertisers. You can negotiate heavily. Don't look at the rate card and go, oh my God, I can't afford that, because the price you'll pay is a lot less than what's on that rate card. To give you an idea of what it cost me, I was spending $550 per full page advert in a premium bridal magazine in my area. That was costing me £2,200 per year. If we're talking dollars, you're probably looking at upper end of $3,000. And that's the kind of budget we're looking at. If you're putting an advert in the magazine, then say, well, listen, look, I'm going to spend this in the magazine. I wouldn't mind some actual editorial as well. Can I get one of my weddings in your real wedding situation? They will say, oh, hang on a minute, there is a Chinese wall between the advertising department and the editorial. So they tell you, and that's how magazines are meant to work. But in real terms, that's not how they work. You've got some leverage here, and you use that leverage. Say, listen, if I don't get a real wedding in your magazine coming up, forget about advertising. I'm going to go to your competitor. So use that leverage. Where do you want your advert? Well, the best place for your advert, if you can get it, is the back page, and you'll pay a premium for that. I've never had a back page. I wasn't willing to pay the premium that somebody was paying for it. Sometimes it's a bigger national company that are taking the back page, or use the wedding gowns, that kind of thing. They've got a lot more marketing spend than you have. Failing that, if you can get inside front or rear covers, that's the next best position. And then the best after that is a right-hand page within the relevant section of the magazine. So you want your advert to be in amongst the photography section, not tucked away somewhere elsewhere in the magazine. You want it in the right section of the ad. So when they're flicking through photography, you're on the right-hand page, there you are, full page ad, bang. Some do's and don'ts about advertising, very important. You've got to advertise consistently. You can't, I said this earlier, you can't just chuck one advert and expect things to happen. I think there's a famous principle that people don't recognise a brand until they've seen it something 6 or 7 times. Right, so they need to see this brand consistently. So they need to see you in that magazine. They need to see you on Facebook. And once they've seen you, they start to go, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that guy. Yeah, I remember Alan Hutchison photography. Where have I seen him before? That's why we've got to do a series of adverts. Make sure it's a relevant magazine you advertise in, e.g. your bridal magazine, obviously. Great ones to make sure you get into are the annual specials of upmarket magazines like Vogue and Scottish Field. They'll do an annual bridal special, and if you can get in these, you're really hitting very high-end target clients here. Make sure you find a way of tracking the results from your adverts. So put something in that advert when they speak to you, you can recognise where that advert came from. So you may have a different special offer in your call to action that is different depending on what magazine you're advertising in. Don't advertise in generic magazines, local directories. Your local papers are the worst things in the world to advertise in. Oh, awful. Don't go small. You've got to think big. You've got to be willing to spend here to do this. And that is a downside of advertising. It costs money, but if you do it right, you'll get a whopping return from it. So that's print advertising for you. Some people, as I say, might find print advertising a bit controversial in this modern digital age, but I can assure you it still works. See you in the next lesson.